every night on the Weather Channel. In this half hour, WeatherScope, a comprehensive national forecast. At 40 after, TravelWise gives you the latest on travel hotspots. Then the weekend outlook. And at 50 after, the storm update. Right now on the Weather Channel, your local forecast. WeatherScope.
Well, severe weather is now beginning to break out in parts of the Northeast, and also developing very rapidly are some big-time storms across the Central Plains. We're going to get the latest right now by going to the Forecast Center. Standing by is Jim Cantori. Jim?
Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. A very busy afternoon. We have thrown ourselves right into the heart of severe weather, and it's going to be with us for the next couple of days. We're welcome and very privileged to have Fred Osprey with us today to talk about the severe weather situation that's shaping up, not only today, but Fred, but also what you're talking about over the next couple of days could even be worse, especially for the Mississippi Valley.
That's right. We're even seeing indications of that developing already this afternoon out there in the Western Plains.
That's right. We have a new tornado watch, which has just been posted from Garden City to Liberal, Kansas. As soon as we get that for you, we will show it to you graphically. Let's talk a little bit about what's happened so far along this cold front. You can see this graphically, and I'll just read you some of the severe weather reports that we've had so far. Mecklenburg County, 2-inch diameter hail, tree limbs down there. Sussex County, which is in the southern part of Virginia. These are Virginia, by the way. Sorry I didn't mention that. Southeastern Virginia, Stony Creek, 50 to 60-year-old trees uprooted by 70-mile-per-hour winds. And also at the National Weather Service office in Wakefield, 1.5-inch diameter hail and greater covering the ground. So a very, very active afternoon. Fred, what's going along ahead of this cold front this afternoon?
Well, of course, this cold front is racing eastward because of the very strong winds that we have in the upper atmosphere. And so we're seeing severe thunderstorm watches all the way from the North Carolina, Virginia area all the way up into New York State. And we've got two lines of thunderstorms, one out ahead of the front that extends almost heading toward Chesapeake Bay and then eastern New York State, and then another line of storms right on the cold front itself as it's moving eastward.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the lightning data here. Really explosive situation this afternoon. There was just enough sun behind that that prefrontal activity this morning so that we got enough heating to really let these things go out ahead of this cold front this afternoon. And some very active weather heading toward the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel. Here are the current watches through late this evening. So obviously your commute will be affected in the megalopolis. New York City, Philadelphia, also down to the Baltimore, Washington area. And here are some of the big storms now that we're watching. Again, look at this storm move out of Sussex County. This is the one that's been the real active weather producer this afternoon. 70-mile-per-hour winds. This thing's heading right toward Norfolk and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel, Fred.
Not a good day to be out on Chesapeake Bay, for sure.
Indeed. We saw a few storms develop east of Baltimore over the bay, and now we have new storms coming off the high country, and those are dropping southeast, so we'll keep an eye on those. And even down to North Carolina, there are several warnings coming out as well for you folks in northern North Carolina. Well, I'll tell you, from the last time we talked, Fred, this has really filled in some really powerful storms now in central Pennsylvania.
We're seeing really explosive development all back through that area where the cold front is. Yes, indeed.
And you think the same scenario that we're seeing in Virginia, some gusty winds, you think 50 to 70 miles an hour?
I think those things are quite capable of happening given the strength of the system that we're seeing and some of the reports that we've already seen so far. Yes, indeed.
So Luzerne County in northeast Pennsylvania, if you live there, just north of Wilkes-Barre, looks like up around Dallas, you're probably getting hit right now pretty hard. Winds in that area with this cell right here have been clocked anywhere from 40 to 60 miles per hour. So severe weather, a threat not only in the northeast out ahead of our cold front, but with our developing trough and surface low pressure, which is now developing in the west. This is the visible satellite imagery. Not very active in through here today, but Fred, we can see something in the northwest part of the screen that shows us things may go downhill in a hurry in the Texas Panhandle this afternoon.
Thunderstorms are developing, Jim, over southeastern Colorado and western Kansas, and this has prompted the issuance of a tornado watch between Garden City and Liberal that you mentioned before. And so this is just the beginning, I think, of the next severe weather episode. We'll see the beginnings of it this evening, but then tomorrow it should be a major severe weather producer in the lower Mississippi Valley.
Now, just yesterday we had as many as 40 tornadoes reported. Do you think we're going to see a similar scenario set up with tornadoes, or what do you think the main feature of the severe will be?
Well, there's no reason why tomorrow shouldn't be at least as active as it was yesterday, given the fact that there'll be even a greater amount of low-level moisture to fuel the storms tomorrow. And it looks as though supercell development and tornadoes should be quite likely, and so folks really need to pay attention in that area tomorrow, from the southern plains to the southern Mississippi Valley.
Well, let's just take a quick look at tomorrow's severe weather outlook. I want to show you this because it's very important. This is where Fred is highlighting what could be an extremely active severe weather day all the way up through the Mississippi Valley. And yes, St. Louis, Memphis, New Orleans, you are in it, and eventually later on we're talking about heading east across the river valley. So a very active weather pattern here, folks. Stay with us. We'll keep you posted on the storms, and keep attuned to your local forecast for those warnings as they come out as the storms head through the megalopolis this evening. Let's go back and talk more about the nation's weather and the forecast with Rick in the studio.
Okay, we'll do it this go-around with Will and show you what's going on with our current weather map. And this is the scene right now. We'll go right to it and show you our next developing storm. This go-around throughout the Rockies. And again, we're looking at some gusty winds across the Front Range right now. This will be the storm system that's going to lumber its way eastward tomorrow. Again, picking up ample amounts of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. And once again, this surface system will be developing across Nebraska tonight, heading right towards Chicago, even Detroit by later tomorrow. So if you live anywhere across Missouri, Central and South Illinois, much of Indiana, Kentucky, and even the state of Ohio later in the day, could be looking at some severe weather. Strong northwesterly winds right now. It's a very raw day throughout the Midwest. And take a look at what's happening around Cleveland with winds gusting still up to 40 to 50 miles per hour. The temperature's at 44 degrees. Buffalo, not much better at 43, but St. Louis 62, Kansas City 63. Again, we're still looking at some very gusty winds for the northeast, away from the thunderstorms. Of course, some very strong winds in western Texas and southeastern Colorado. The winds will die down later on this evening. That spells trouble tomorrow morning. Watch out if you live in lower Michigan. Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Troy, to around Columbus and Reynoldsburg, heading up towards Akron and Canton, even northwestern PA. You could be looking at some frosty conditions by early tomorrow morning. If you got any tender plants at all outdoors, take them in right now, because if you leave them out overnight without protecting them, they may be a goner by early morning tomorrow. Here's a look at the deep south. A very nice day today from Charleston to Atlanta to Birmingham. That will change after midnight tomorrow night. A dry front going through right now. Here comes our next active system that's going to cause a lot of heavy weather throughout the Midwest tomorrow. Right now in Denver, Colorado, 56 degrees. The Great Salt Lake is at 47. And again, a break in the action throughout the Pacific Northwest. You can see the clouds coming up right now. Here's our next developing Midwestern storm. Looks like another storm arriving for the weekend for the Northwest. We'll keep our eyes on that one. And for the southwestern part of the country, lots of fair weather here. Central and South California, looking at some gusty northerly winds this afternoon, a very warm day. That's going to be your forecast.
Other chance.